want to be around Nigel, or on a stage with Nigel, or share space with the boss of the company that is Reform, you have to bow down to Mohammed Zia Yusuf, no matter how he treats you. Doesn't matter if he reports you to the police because, you didn't buy him lunch. You have to bow down. Number two, you have to disavow the online rights. That really sneering, dismissive thing that I cannot stand.
Katie Hopkins has spoken out on Nigel Farage and the Reform UK drama in detail for the first time. And for the first time, she seems to be nailing her colours to the mast and backing Rupert Lowe over the party's leader. I want to take you through exactly what she has to say. But first, her criticism is very much centred around Nigel's new relationship with Zia Yusuf, the chairman of the party. He has broken his silence in the past 24 hours to say Reform has made unprecedented progress in the last 8 months from a standing start. Historically, Reform fielded candidates in just a third of council by-elections. In 4 months, we built infrastructure to ensure we now stand in almost all of them. Huge credit to our branches. However, and there is a however, it was Zia Yusuf who made the decision to go tonto, to turn totally toxic on Rupert Lowe and report Reform's top-performing MP to the police. Darren Grimes, a Reform UK member and candidate, will join us for analysis in just one moment. But first, I think it's important to take you through all of Katie's arguments so we have total context on what she's saying. Because remember, she has been incredibly supportive of Reform UK. She has offered to speak at the party's events. She's offered to even stand as a candidate for the party. So this is not a woman like me. This is not a woman who has it in her to want to bring down Nigel Farage or destroy Reform UK. That is not where she's coming from. However, she is angry about Zia Yusuf. Watch.
So yesterday, Nigel came out and said any criticism of Mohammed Zia Yusuf is racism. Anybody criticising Mohammed Zia Yusuf is racism. Now, despite the fact that the criticisms being levelled at Mohammed aren't about colour or religion or something weird, it's that he reported Rupert Lowe to the police over hurty words. So factually, criticism of Mohammed Zia Yusuf isn't about anything to do with race nor religion. It's to do with behaviour around a much-loved MP, or an MP that many people feel speak the truth. That.
She then explained how Nigel Farage and his set of rules now seem to relate directly to the central role that Zia Yusuf now finds himself having within Reform UK.
If you want to support Reform, or you want to be on side with Nigel, that's probably a better way of phrasing it, there are a list of rules. Now, I've known these for a few decades. When people have asked me about Nigel, I always go, oh, yes, Nigel. But I've always known all of this stuff. But, you have to hold the line and you have to support the thing that's most closely aligned. You have to choose the least bad option. But anyway, so now if you want to be around Nigel, or on a stage with Nigel, or share space with the boss of the company that is Reform, you have to bow down to Mohammed Zia Yusuf, no matter how he treats you. Doesn't matter if he reports you to the police because, you didn't buy him lunch. You have to bow down. Number two, you have to disavow the online rights. That really sneering, dismissive thing that I cannot stand. Richard Tice does that, Nigel does it. You have to dismiss all the decent people that I love as the online right. Oh, just racists, skinhead racists, which is not the truth at all. Most of them are like grandparents and lovely people, and young people as well, who are scared for the direction this country's going in. You sort of talk about immigration, but you can't have any solutions because you can't talk about the options. So you have to sort of talk about immigration to get votes or clicks or views, but then don't really address the fact that you're not willing to go hard on a solution in the way that Trump has, rounding people up, deporting people, getting people to say, I don't deserve to be in America, I should really leave.
And then interestingly, Katie Hopkins linked all of this to GB News and what she describes as the GB News framework, something that both myself and Darren Grimes know a lot about. Watch.
Another rule is you have to be within the GB News framework, because that's a whole other, list of rules in itself. I'm banned from GB News because at no time would I ever comply with the rules that all of those presenters, all of them, have to comply with. That's fine. People need an income. People need a job. No criticism. I'm just saying the list of rules. So you must bow down to Zia. You must criticise the online writers racist. My people, you have to say they're all racist and bad guys. You have to be within the rule framework of GB News, which is another layer of rules right there. And then you have to be willing to disavow Tommy Robinson or me or whatever. I'm irrelevant in this. But so you have to say Tommy Robinson's a bad guy. You're not allowed to speak his name. You're not allowed to mention his name. You're not allowed to say that the fight he's in, the isolation he's enduring is terrible and wrong. You're not allowed to say any of that, you see. All of these rules that have been put in place by Nigel in order to completely control things mean that for most of us, it doesn't bear any resemblance to a party we would want to belong to. And yet we can all acknowledge, if you have to pick an option, it's the least worst option. And
okay, more from Katie in just a moment, but let me bring in Darren Grimes now, who used to work for GB News until very recently, is now a Reform UK candidate. Are these rules that Katie Hopkins is outlining true in terms of your experience?
No, I haven't. I think I'd like to think, Dan, that viewers would find that you go through my social media accounts, my video content, my Substack, whatever it might be, that I'm pretty damn outspoken about things. I don't feel remotely
we like that here.
Censored. Yeah, absolutely. Good word, isn't it? And look, Katie, good luck to her, right? Whatever she says, she resonates with a lot of people. She's funny. She's all the rest of it. She's selling out comedy nights. Great. Good for her. I'm sure Rupert and her will have a riot of a time. But the truth of the reality is here, she's right in saying that without Farage and without reform, well, ask yourself, what do we have then? And the answer is a Tory caucus and Keir Starmer's Labour Party. And as I said earlier, they're the same two sides of the same useless globalist coin. So, yeah, scrutinise reform all you want, right? Any party has to be open to that. Politics is a hard business. It's, some unkind people dismiss it as a show business for ugly people. But that comes with risks and scrutiny. But if this party implodes and people say, I'm not backing it anymore, then we'll hand the enemies of reform, who are mighty in number, powerful in the establishment classes, we'll hand them the ammo that they crave, and then it's game over for this country. I really don't think we've got a way back on all the issues that people like Katie talk about. That's why I, personally, am so bloody frustrated by all of this. We simply don't have time for these kind of personal vendettas, point scoring and letter writing back and forth like some kind of, glorified pen pal. We've got a country that we have to save, Dan. That's what's really, really, frankly, annoying me at the minute. I nearly said something stronger there.
But first, this episode of Outspoken is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. But what if I told you that no longer you have to wait weeks or even months between appointments to experience it? Let me introduce you to Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver, the game-changing tool that brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home. Whether you're after that daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver is your go-to for precision and style every time. What makes the Chairman Pro stand out is its versatility and precision. It comes with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads, the 4-blade foil for that close, smooth shave, or, like me, this is my favourite, the skin-safe stubble trimmer, which keeps your stubble looking sharp and polished. Both designed with skin-safe technology to help reduce razor burn and irritation, so your skin feels smooth and comfortable after every shave, reducing redness or discomfort. A standout feature that truly differentiates the Chairman Pro from the rest is the Flex Adjust technology. It ensures a superior shave by allowing both blades and the pivoting head to seamlessly adapt to the unique contours of your face. It's gentle on the neck area. Honestly, I love it. And if you want even more precision, there is a precision lock, which means you can achieve an even more precise shave. Let me tell you quickly, the Chairman Pro is waterproof as well, which means you can rinse it off under the sink and you're all set. It makes it so much easier. So head on over to manscaped.com, join the over 11 million people worldwide, including me, who trust Manscaped by using the code Outspoken for free shipping and 20% off your entire order. Honestly, this is a perfect gift if you're looking something for your man, your husband, your son. That's manscaped.com, using the code Outspoken for free shipping and a whopping 20% off your entire order. But now, back to the show. Look, I think where I stand on this is that I obviously don't know how things work internally within Reform, but I don't think Reform likes people who are on the whole very supportive. I would put myself in that category. I voted for them at the last election, first to say Nigel Farage should become Prime Minister and probably will become Prime Minister in 2029. They don't like much criticism. And I think sometimes at the early stages of movement like that, you need a little bit of criticism, certainly when it comes to GB News. I mean, they are completely cucked and captured, and the off-communists make it impossible to do anything, but actually so does the weak management. So I think she's very right when it comes to that sort of GB News framework. Everyone sort of has to exist within a system. I was even watching some of their coverage about the Netflix show Adolescence, and they had to say something like, oh, you know, yes, it is terrible, all of these incel white boys. And I thought, really? Is that really an issue? Like, do you have evidence to back that up? Then there's the issue of Matt Goodwin, who's been causing quite a lot of consternation on the right. I mean, this is a guy, actually, I do have a lot of respect for him, but let me show you what Katie Hopkins has to say, and I'll sort of explain it, then get your verdict, Darren. So Katie Hopkins posted, when you need the nasty, racist online right for clicks and attention, but also want to fellatiate Farage and GB News, the truly shocking thing is the treatment of Rupert Lowe. And then she posted a whole load of posts because people were responding to the fact that Matt Goodwin had written, the shocking numbers keep coming, more than ever before, and seeing data on what mass immigration is doing to our country. But the replies to Matt Goodwin were what Katie was referring to, because they said things like, but Reform aren't going to do anything about it, are they? And what is Reform's stance on this? All you were doing is spouting the obvious, but as always, no solutions. Rupert Lowe, well done for starting the ball rolling. I guarantee your question has started this. Should we deport them, Matt, as a question? But Matt Goodwin has now hit back at that criticism, and I think it is worth me taking you through it. I don't particularly agree with his position, but it is a position that at least we can discuss. So Matt Goodwin posted a week ago, more than a few people who live their lives on Twitter suggested it was over for Reform. Today, Reform is averaging a very healthy 25% of national vote and has led both Labour and the Tories in 2 of the last 5 polls. There is, in other words, every chance that Reform will win the next general election. As I said, Twitter is not real life in the sense that most people who congregate on Twitter are not representative of the real world. Some people on here, including, unfortunately, young people who appeared promising but have now shot themselves in the foot, have disappeared down rabbit holes. They have lost sight of what is really going on in this country, how ordinary people out there are thinking and feeling, and what is actually required to win a general election under a first-past-the-post system in which people have never been socialised into the idea of voting for a populist alternative. Those people are being played. Voters clearly see it differently. They want a genuine, radical, but responsible alternative to the Uni Party and are now starting to rally behind it in enormous numbers. Adding 10 points to what a party polled at a general election only a few months ago is enormous. Adding 160,000 grassroots members in a few months in an era in which mass party memberships were supposed to be a thing of the past, and now having 100,000 more members than the Tories is enormous. Creating over 450 branches up and down the country, also in a matter of months, is enormous. Nobody who has been sniping away on Twitter this last week has ever come close to doing anything like this, to building anything like this. And where I stand on this is I do agree with some of what Matt says, but ultimately, Darren Grimes, and this is always where I'm going to come from, I'm an independent journalist, and if I see injustice, if I see false accusations being weaponized against someone like Rupert Lowe, and if I see a policy position like mass deportations, I think wrongly being walked away from, I'm going to say it. And I think it's a little bit naive of Matt to sort of say, oh, Twitter's not real life, when actually his movement has been totally built by what he's done on X, by what he's done on Substack. That is the new way now that you do build political movements. And public opinion, yeah, it might lag a little bit behind where we're at on X, but look at what happened in America. It quickly catches up.
No, absolutely. So I agree. I wouldn't dismiss everybody on any social media platform. As I say myself, I spent an awful lot of time on there. But look, I think I should say for the record, Dan, I have absolutely no desire to perform a sex act on either Nigel Farage or GB News.
That's good to know.
For the record. And I would just say, Dan, at what point, and this is a genuine question that I would put to you, at what point has Nigel said that people here that come over in small boats who've arrived illegally and have absolutely no right to be here, at what point has he ever said that he would allow them all to stay as Prime Minister?
Well, he has said that he doesn't believe in mass deportations of illegals, and he was pressed on that by Stephen Edgington, actually, ironically, on GB News. So it all depends what the definition of mass deportations is. And I do think there's been a little bit of gaslighting going on from both sides, actually, from both sides. But certainly the gaslighting from, I would say, the Matt Goodwin, Nigel Farage side of the argument is saying that people like me and people like Rupert Lowe are suggesting that entire communities of British nationals who have not committed a crime should be deported. That is simply not the argument. Now, it comes from a tweet or a post on X that Rupert Lowe made where he did talk about deporting communities, but it was specifically in reference to communities involved in the rape gang scandal if people were found to have covered up those crimes. So for me, if we're talking about mass deportations, what we're talking about is mass deportations of illegal immigrants or dual nationals who have committed a crime. And that's when, Darren, you get to the polling from GB News that shows actually 99% of Reform UK members agree with that position and 66% of the country. So it's not a niche position. It's just not. It's not.
Look, on the point of, deporting people if they have known about a crime and then not notified the authorities, I actually think, Dan, that would set a really dangerous precedent where ultimately people who, I don't know, if I, for example, we've just been talking about Tommy Robinson, if I hadn't alerted the press that there had been some breach of the libel laws or whatever else he's been done for over the years, am I going to get risk of deportation or something like that? Ultimately, you can't. I think the 5-year rule, the right to remain, has to be looked at again. I think 5 years when we've got asylum cases longer than the queue for a bus in London on match day is absolutely absurd, right? I think that needs to be changed and reformed, for want of a better word. But the idea that you can just even Trump isn't getting rid of absolutely anybody. In fact, Dan, I've seen criticism of Trump from members of the MAGA right saying that he's not going far enough or fast enough. So, and he's ramped up the rhetoric around this over recent days, saying that he will do this. So there is a reality where you cannot just say we're going to get rid of absolutely everybody that's come here. It's just fact. But what you can do is say, if you are here illegally and you do not have the right to be here, or if you've received right to remain over recent years, and that's just as a consequence of you being in this country for longer than 5 years because the asylum system is backlogged, then that's not right. And you ought to be sent back packing where you came from, or be that France, whatever else. But you have to deal in facts and reality. And I'm afraid that it's easy to say things, but is it easy to put things into practice? There are many people I find utterly reprehensible and totally disgusting, and the rape gang scandal and those that did know about it and did nothing would be high up there, if not at the top of my list of priorities. but we cannot say to some British citizen who's like a second generation immigrant to this country, well, we're going to get rid of you because, you know, you knew about this and didn't tell anyone. They didn't ultimately perpetrate the crime. So I think that would set a pretty awful precedent. And Nigel is right to query and question that. The accusation of sycophancy, you know, I have, as you know, I was at GB News for 3 years, and I never felt that I was part of this GB News. Well, how is it Katie describes it?
The framework.
I never felt that I was in that framework. So I don't really accept that, right? I think actually I was on the outer edges of GB News because I didn't follow a certain framework. So there are those of us who don't buy into this, but also actually just want to see the best possible outcome for the country, which actually means that we save said country. Because right now, the inheritance that earlier this week, Paddy Hemingway, the last of the few in the Battle of Britain, passed away at 105. The inheritance that he handed down to our generation is being utterly squandered. And I think reform are the best opportunity we've got of actually having a revival, a recovery of some semblance of that inheritance. Because I don't think we could look that man in the eye, were we to meet him in the next life, and say that we've done anywhere near enough to actually justify the 4 times that precious man was shot down by the Nazis. For what? For what? We've squandered what he did for us. So that's my position. That's where I'm at. If people are saying that I'm committing fellatio on GB News and Nigel Farage,
let's not even put that thought in our head. Darren Graham, stand by. Just I guess a final word from Rupert Lowe himself, because he did clarify, I think, that difference that we're discussing here. Rupert Lowe says, we don't just need to deport those who are arriving legally, we need to deport those who are here illegally. There is a significant difference. Stopping the boats is only one small part of what needs to happen. Radical change is required. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.